Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the hidden economic logic behind every single choice you make. From your morning coffee to your biggest splurges. We're diving deep into the theory of consumer behavior.
So here's the thing we all deal with, right? We want everything, but our wallets have, well, limits. Economists have a name for this. They call it the problem of choice. And today, we're going to unpack the exact framework they built to understand how you solve it every single day.
Here's our roadmap. We'll start with that core problem. Then, we'll figure out how to actually measure satisfaction. After that, we'll face the reality of our budget. Then the fun part, finding that single best option. And finally, we'll see how all of our individual choices add up to create the demand that literally runs our economy.
Okay, let's jump right in. Now, to make things super simple, just for a minute, let's imagine a world where you only have to choose between two things, bananas and mangoes.
So any mix of these two fruits, 5 bananas and 10 mangoes or 2 and 12, that's called a consumption bundle. And at the end of the day, the whole goal for any rational person is to pick the one bundle that makes them the happiest, which economists give a fancy name, utility.
But wait a second, how on earth do you measure something as personal as satisfaction? I mean, that's a huge question, right? And economists have come up with a couple of really clever ways to think about it.
The first idea was something called cardinal utility. This theory basically imagined we could slap a number on happiness. Like, this banana gives me exactly 12 utils of joy. Now, it's a bit of a theoretical concept, but stick with me because it leads to an incredibly powerful insight.
And that big insight comes from this key idea, marginal utility. It's not about how happy you are in total. It's about how much extra happiness you get from just one more of something. So how much happier does that next banana really make you?
All right, just look at this table for a second. That first banana, it gives you a huge satisfaction boost, 12 utils. But look what happens as you eat more. Check out that last column, the marginal utility. It drops, and even goes negative. Your total happiness hits a peak and then actually starts to fall.
And this, my friends, is the official law of diminishing marginal utility. That first banana is awesome. The second one is pretty good. But by the time you're on your sixth one, you might actually feel worse. You're getting negative marginal utility.
Now because, let's be real, we can't actually put a number on happiness. Modern economists prefer to just rank our preferences. This is called ordinal utility, and we can visualize it perfectly with a really cool tool called an indifference curve.
I want you to think of this curve as a contour line on a map of your own personal happiness. Any single point on this line, whether it's a bundle with tons of mangoes and just a few bananas, or the other way around, it makes you equally happy. You are literally indifferent between any of those choices.
And these happiness maps have a few simple ground rules. They always slope down because you're trading one good for another. Higher curves are always better. That just means more happiness. And this is a big one. They can never, ever cross, because that would mean you're more and less happy at the same time, which is just impossible.
Okay, so we've mapped out our preferences, our entire universe of happiness, but we can't have it all. Now we have to face reality. We're all limited by our budget.
We can visualize this limit with something called a budget line. It's just a straight line that shows every single combination of bananas and mangoes you can afford, if you spend every last penny. Think of it as the hard boundary of your purchasing power.
So, let's say you've got 20 rupees, and both fruits cost 5 rupees each. Your choices suddenly get crystal clear. You can go all in on bananas and get 4, or all in on mangoes and get 4, or maybe get a mix, like 2 of each. Anything on or inside that line is fair game. Anything outside is sadly unaffordable. All right, now for the really cool part. This is where we bring everything together. We're going to take your map of preferences, those indifference curves, and lay it on top of your map of what's affordable, that budget line, to find the single best choice you can possibly make.
The goal is actually pretty simple. You want to get on the highest happiness curve that your budget will allow you to reach. And that sweet spot, what we call the consumer's optimum, is the one single point where your budget line just barely kisses the highest indifference curve you can afford.
And this one point is brilliant because it represents a perfect balance. It's the spot where your personal trade-off value, how many mangoes you're willing to give up for one more banana, lines up perfectly with the market's trade-off value, which is just the ratio of their prices. It's where what you want aligns perfectly with what you can actually get.
So here's the crucial takeaway. That single best choice you make, it's not set in stone.
It changes when things like prices change, and watching how it changes is exactly how economists get to the famous demand curve.
So just watch what happens when a price changes. Let's say bananas get cheaper. Suddenly, your budget line swings outward. Now you can afford more stuff, which lets you reach a new, higher happiness curve. And what's the result? Your new sweet spot almost always includes buying more bananas.
So if you plot your original choice and then you plot this new choice, lower price, higher quantity, you've literally just drawn the first 2 points of your own personal demand curve. If you do this for every possible price, you trace out that entire downward sloping curve that we all know as the law of demand.
Look, this isn't just some abstract theory. This is the hidden logic behind every single trade-off you make every day. It's why a sale is so incredibly tempting. Every rational choice you make is one tiny little building block of the entire market economy.
So the next time you're in a store trying to decide between two things, just remember these invisible forces that are guiding your hand. You're not just shopping. You're a rational agent, navigating your own unique preferences and budget, all in search of that one perfect point of optimal satisfaction.